Hi, everyone. Welcome to Halftime Live on Brew Sports. We welcome you inside the studio. A great day, a Tuesday edition of Halftime. As you've probably guessed by now, no Tanner Burke today, but the very comparable and capable Mitch Vomhoff joining me in the studio today. Mitch, welcome to Halftime, sir. How are you today?
Thanks, Baxter. I'm doing great. I'm
good.
Real glad that I got an opportunity to come down and, see how the Daily Boys do it.
Yeah, we're excited to have you.
See what's going on.
For those that don't know, Mitch is one of our NBA lead hosts as well, too. He and Jimmy Carlton host Double Dribble on Friday nights from 5 to 6 p.m. right here on Brew Sports, so make sure you go check out their show. You can get their show and all the other shows that we do on demand by going to our website, brewsportsnet.com. You can also find them up on YouTube as well, too. Just search for Brew Sports. Facebook as well, too. Really, anywhere that Brew Sports is there, you can find videos of virtually everything we've done. So, numerous ways to interact with us. We are excited to have you all along with us for the show today. Of course, we're going to have Brendan Mentz joining us in our second segment to talk about the World Baseball Classic. We've got a lot of different great things to talk about today as well, too, Mitch. So I'm excited to really dive into it. If you want to interact with the broadcast, of course, comment down below on the video link on Facebook. Share this with your friends as well, too, so that way they can hear all the amazing things that we have to say. You can also tweet at us as well. I am at Baxter Colburn, at BrewSportsNet as well on Twitter, and you are?
I am at Mitch Vomhoff.
Mitch Vomhoff. It's a great name. One F.
One F, yes,
one
please.
F. One F, not two Fs. Okay. All right,
it's
Mitch.
the bane of my existence.
It is, and I honestly am guilty of that as well,
Fs.
too, sometimes. I'm like, all right, Mitch Vomhoff. I'm like, nope, that's too many Fs. One F for the Vomhoff.
Yes,
before we go, we need to tell people what we're drinking, what we've got in our hands. I will lead. I've got another cider. What's in the
big cider man? I see.
What's in the fridge basically is oh my gosh, it's a Sprecher cider basically. It's decent. I'm not a huge fan, but I'm not mad about it at the same time. And then my my pint glass is from the West Bend Tap and Tavern. Eat and drink local.
Also rep local. Nice.
Yes,
very
rep
nice.
local. It's
Excellent.
got the beautiful, for those of you that can see, it's got the Wisconsin symbol on the back of the glass there as well, too. So check that out and love it. So cheers to you, Mitch.
Yes.
What do you got rolling today?
I have an old classic, a standby of mine, the Lakefront IPA.
Ooh, the Lakefront IPA.
Which really, to me, is probably my favorite IPA, and kind of just like maybe what sums up the format. The beer format of the IPA best. No, this is.
I'm not a huge IPA fan. It just never has been my thing, unfortunately. And everybody's different, of course. That's why there's numerous kinds of beer, obviously, because everybody's got a thing that they like, and other people don't, of course.
Yeah, for sure. And I've never strived to be a beer elitist. Obviously there are some people who are
very
uptight about their IPAs and their bitterness units. And
I
all
do
that,
know some people that are very like,
well,
I drink IPAs only from Napa Valley. Be like, okay, you need to stop. You need to go home because you don't deserve.
We can't have this conversation.
You're
right now.
far too snobby for what I would like you to be. All right, Mitch, rolling along with the program today. We're going to start things off talking about the college basketball tournaments, of course, NCAA time, the March Madness, all that fun stuff. Selection Sunday is, of course, this coming Sunday.
Yes.
So
approaching
a very
rapidly.
exciting time. But the conference tournaments have raised a lot of, some might say, controversy, I guess, because lower seeds are winning games. We have a good example here in Wisconsin. The University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee has a shot to win, correct me if I'm wrong, the Horizon League title.
You're correct.
And if they do that, they will have a non-winning record
Yes,
to
I
do
believe
so.
they are at this point
I think they've only won like
8 and 23.
8 and 23, and they're playing for a conference title.
Yes.
Despite, getting just basically boat raced all year. Jeff says, go Panthers on Facebook. There
Panthers,
you go.
go.
We've got some UW pride there already. But I find it strange and slightly upsetting that this is even remotely possible.
Yes.
And it's only in college basketball. This doesn't happen in college football because, of course, you lose even one game, and all of a sudden people are like, nope, not a chance. They've been tainted. No way they make the playoffs. What do you make of something like this when you hear that an 8-win team has a chance to win a conference title and then also maybe go and compete at the national level as well too for a national title?
Yeah, it's a really unique feature of the college basketball setup that they have. Because obviously for the NCAA tournament you have 64 teams coming in, but then you have 32 automatic bids of teams that have won their conference tournament, no matter what their record, still have a chance to get into the tournament. And on one hand, that does feed into the Cinderella narrative that people love so much when we talk about March Madness, of watch this underdog team come in and all of a sudden get hot, win a couple games.
Even
get to
the Cinderella teams
16.
that we've seen in the past, like they've at least won double digits for games most
for sure.
of the time.
Yes, and this is a unique case, I would say, definitely, because you obviously don't expect a team that bad to even, obviously they have a chance in their conference tournament.
True,
but you don't expect them to make any noise.
No, you don't, and I don't think that's why people need to read into this too much, because a team, unfortunately, like UWM, was probably going to get boat raced right out of right out of the NCAA tournament. Honestly, David on Facebook says, "Yay, Panthers! This is what I love and hate about the tournament. Anyone can make it via the conference tournament." Now, is it correct though that if you win your conference tournament, no matter which one, you automatically get a bid in, or is it?
There are 32 conference tournaments that all get automatic bids.
Jeez. So that's all you got to do. You could literally go 0 for whatever, 24, go to your conference tournament as the 14th seed or whatever the lowest seed is,
hot and
win it all,
through it,
and then all of a sudden you're there playing for a shot, potentially for a national championship.
and then you're playing
of course,
a one seed in your region, and then you're going to get stomped anyways.
True.
But you could make it in. Yes, that's true.
That is so strange. I feel like, and I don't know. I guess I don't know if people actually like that. Do you? I mean, the Cinderella story. I think people like the small
talking
schools.
about it.
They do. Obviously, that's what we're doing. That's why we're talking about it, of course. But it's kind of funny though, because I mean, for a while it was Wichita State, George Mason, those things where it's like, hey, they won 18 plus games this year, but they're in such a small conference, we don't know how they're going to stack up against the Duke. But now you've got the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, who's like, we've won 8 games. If we win, I think it's tonight or tomorrow again.
It is tonight. Yes,
it is tonight. If they win tonight,
final,
then they have a chance to go to the NCAA tournament. So
I
mean, it's great, good for them, of course. But
yes.
For the whole March Madness as a whole, I find it a little disturbing, honestly.
Yeah, it's obviously, if you want to watch the best competition, it's not ideal. But given that a team like that isn't going to be a major player in the tournament,
right? Yeah.
I mean, like I said, if they end up being a 14, 15, 16 seed, they're just kind of interchangeable with whatever other team would have gotten put in there as a low seed with a very limited chance against one of the traditional powerhouses.
True.
So overall, I would say it's probably not going to affect the tournament too much.
Yes.
It's just an interesting story to talk about.
Are you going to watch the game tonight?
I think I'm probably going to have to tune in. Because
I'm going to have to probably try to find some sort of a way to keep an eye on it, honestly, if I can. I mean, I'm sure social media will be buzzing with this since we are here in the Milwaukee area. I'm sure a lot of our mutual friends and mutual Twitter people will be tweeting, etc. about it. But let us know your thoughts if you think
definitely.
that I feel like there should be certain rules to qualify for the NCAA tournament. I understand winning your conference tournament is a big deal, but I feel like you should also then have a minimum of a certain amount of wins as well too, because otherwise I feel like you're diluting the product of what the NCAA tournament is at the last.
Yeah, that's definitely a fair assessment. And if obviously this is a 1 year kind of exception. I don't think we're going to be seeing stories every year.
Exactly, it's not something that we're seeing all the time.
This 9-win team is running the table in their tournament.
Now, if they do, it's the greatest thing that's ever happened in sports, and I will be the first person to jump in line and say, "Go Panthers!" If they make it to the Final Four, I'll be like, "Panthers!" But even though my allegiance has nothing to do with the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee.
But that new UWM tattoo on your shoulder is going to look really good.
Exactly.
So.
I'm just going to get a big chest.
There you go. Yes, perfect.
I'm not
a man who didn't go to UWM.
No,
getting its logo
tattooed on
their
But I live in Milwaukee, so therefore, of course.
The transitive property of sports states that
exactly
you are UWM fan.
Yes, exactly. By association, I am also a Milwaukee Panthers.
There you go.
Fan. That makes total sense to me.
Definitely.
All right, let's move along to our correspondent, Brendan Mentz, is joining us now to talk on halftime about the World Baseball Classic. Brendan, good lunchtime to you. How are we doing today, sir?
I'm doing quite well. How are you?
Oh, not too bad at all. Brendan, I know that you follow all things in the sports world. Do you have a quick comment about what I was just saying about the validity of non-double-digit teams or losing record teams making it to the NCAA tournament?
Oh gosh, it certainly is bizarre, and of course, in a year like this where it's just so strange all around college basketball and the NCAA tournament, that you're going to have a 23-loss team that could very well make it to the NCAA tournament.
That's true. Yes.
I mean, you just got to shake your head and say sports. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all you can say, honestly. Just be like, welcome
what
to
else
sports.
Can you say?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's why.
What else can you say?
And that's why so many people love sports as well at the same time, because anything can happen at any given day, honestly. So good for the Panthers, good for that, for them overall. But don't get too attached, I would say, if you're Panther fans at this point, honestly. But let's talk about baseball, because that's what you have a much more budding knowledge about, Brendan. The World Baseball Classic is going on right now. It's so interesting how these shows on Brew Sports have transitioned, because we started by making fun of the World Baseball Classic last week and being like, nobody talks about it. It's a useless tournament. And suddenly I think I've talked about it now more in the last couple of days than I've ever talked about it in my entire life. Which is just kind of funny how that kind of works. But we've seen some interesting games so far for the World Baseball Classic. Israel, of all people, is continuing to win their games. Japan won a big game today. The Netherlands upset Korea as well, too. But what have been some of your takeaways here from the first opening rounds of action for the World Baseball Classic?
Well, you mentioned, of course, Israel, a big one. They played a couple games, at least yesterday, in our time zone at least. It's probably 2 different days there. I don't know exactly how the time change works, but they are really shaping up to be a very good team. And just kind of looking through this roster and seeing the guys are trotting out there, they got a surprisingly decent team. Sam Fold, Nate Freeman, Cody Decker, Ryan LaVarnley, Jason Marquis, even former star pitcher on the mound for Israel yesterday. And they really are shaping up quite nicely. And, of course, beating a team like South Korea in their first game 2-1 in extra innings, and then they're turning around and blowing out Taiwan after that. It's really something eye-opening, and we could possibly see Israel as type of this year's version of the Netherlands, who pretty much came out of nowhere in 2013 and finished in 4th place in the entire tournament. And, of course, you mentioned the Netherlands shutting out South Korea yesterday as well. They have quite a stacked roster as their own, a lot better than you would think for a country like that. So really some interesting things to see early on. And, of course, it's hard to say how much you can take away from it, as we still have yet to see teams like the U.S., Canada, Dominican Republic, Venezuela, Puerto Rico, those squads that have a lot of major league players on their roster. So it'll be interesting to see how teams like the Netherlands and Israel will match up with those squads that they get started here either tomorrow or Friday, and how that will shape up.
What are the realistic expectations about the United States? You mentioned them, of course, being a highly touted side, and in years past they've done fairly well overall too. But do USA fans have a reason to be excited about this roster?
Well, I would imagine that they have to be, of course, as I mentioned the last time I was on with you, U.S. baseball fans in particular, and you could argue the players, I can't say this for sure, but probably don't take as much pride in it as other countries, especially, say, Japan and Cuba, and maybe even Dominican Republic, as Japan has won the entire thing twice. Mm-hmm. So take it with a grain of salt. And as you see, the U.S. hasn't even finished in the top 3. They best finished a 4th-place finish in 2009. So you would have to expect, at least just by the talent, that they certainly can win it all. There's no doubt about that. But at the same time, it's just kind of how much do you want it and how much do you want to push your players? Since, in particular, the way I look at with Japan, their first 2 years, I mean, Japan is very, very, that's part of their culture. It's country over everything, it seems like. And then also, you're playing with pretty much an entire roster that is players in the Japanese professional leagues, Nippon professional baseball, and this year is no different. The only MLB player I find on their roster is Nori Aoki, and so you have an entire league that's all played together with Japan as well, unlike many of these other squads where you have a mixture of players in the big leagues, some players in the minor leagues, and some guys that they're nowhere to be found in U.S. professional baseball. And it's kind of hard to play together with these guys, and you may not have even met them before.
That's true, yeah, and that's the big thing, I feel like, is sometimes with these international tournaments, you don't always know the chemistry of some of these players. Even looking at the U.S. roster, a lot of these guys are just kind of scattered throughout the Major League Baseball landscape, but there's some big names on there, of course. I mean, Jonathan Lucroy, Buster Posey, Giancarlo Stanton, just to name a couple. If I knew for a fact I had at least those three guys on my team, I would be feeling pretty confident about my chances even to just generally compete as a whole.
Yeah, like I said, with the U.S., I don't think that the talent is ever going to be the issue. I think it's just going to be the will and how much do you want to push other teams' players, I guess.
True.
Is the deal. Is that certainly is very bizarre how for many countries, especially as I mentioned, Japan and particularly Cuba, who lost to Japan earlier this morning. I mean, Cuba, all those guys are stuck on the island, so this is their chance to shine. This is their World Series per se. While the U.S., it's still spring training for all these guys.
True.
So there probably is not that deep fire or that will. Again, I can't speak for that 100%, but if I had to guess, that would probably be a fair one to make.
Makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking about spring training a little bit, Brennan, obviously we're still pretty early and there's not a lot to be drawn out, but we did have some big a big question mark surrounding David Price and his elbow recently being shut down for a little bit. What do you make out of the David Price situation? Is this something serious? Is this something that might end up affecting the Red Sox into the regular season?
Considering the fact that he was given a clean bill of health and that it's just going to be he'll shut down for a week or two type of thing, no, I don't expect this being an issue in the regular season because the regular season doesn't start for another 4 weeks from yesterday. So I think that the Sox will probably just take him slow, all right, sit him out for a couple weeks, get him back going some bullpens. Worst case scenario, I think he might be on a little bit of a pitch count for his first start or two of the regular season, but I don't anticipate him going to the DL or any spin.
And that makes a lot of sense, too. I mean, people have been calling his elbow a bionic elbow and just these weird things like it healed itself. Like, it's so strange to see something like that. And, of course, anytime you can avoid Tommy John surgery, I feel like anybody can breathe a sigh of relief, whether you're a pitching ace or you're an eighth grader, basically. So it makes a lot of sense to me, honestly. But certainly some good insight on David Price as well, too. I mean, as you mentioned, we're still a couple of weeks away as well, too, from opening day, and spring training is a hard thing as a whole to try to track because there's so many different things happening all over the place, especially with the World Baseball Classic as well, too. But are there any other stories that we need to be tracking or players that have maybe started to do different things that we need to keep an eye on as we go forward the next couple of weeks, Brennan?
Honestly, Claire, right now it's been pretty quiet so far. I did have a couple of deals here. Scott Kazmir of the Dodgers leaving a start to was on Monday with a sore hip, which could be an issue to the Dodgers as they do not quite have as much depth as they've had in previous years, but they do have a lot of other options, Brandon McCarthy, Julio Urias, and also Ross Stripling and Alex Wood there. So a lot of testing for them in that case. And also David Dahl of the Rockies coming down with an injury as well. He is a guy that's been seen as kind of a breakout candidate, though kind of stuck in a crowded outfield for them as well. So hard to say exactly how much playing time would be, but he is out for at least 2 weeks with a stress fracture in his ribs, so that could be a blow for the Rockies come opening day. There's unclear whether he will play at all by the end of spring training.
Good to know. All right, Brennan, as we let you run here, any other final thoughts from you, Mitch, before we let Brennan run?
No, I think we're good.
Okie
we'll
doke.
obviously keep monitoring spring training and just really anxious to get the baseball season going.
Absolutely. All right, Brennan, where can people find your work and find you on social media as well, too, sir, to keep up with the latest baseball news?
Yeah, once again, at Brennan Mintz, that is all one word and lowercase, so feel free to shoot me a follow and stay up to date.
Appreciate it, Brennan. Let's talk to you again soon, all right, sir?
All right, bye.
All right, there goes Brendan Menz here on Halftime as we continue to look at spring training and look at the many storylines, of course, hanging around the World Baseball Classic and all the other excitement budding as well, too. A couple of things here on Facebook as well, too. Armin says he's loving your man bun, Mitch.
Thanks,
so shout out to Armin there. Appreciate it. I could never do that with my hair. I could get my hair long enough, but I don't think I could stand having my hair that long.
Oh, sure.
What was the inspiration for the man bun?
I was just at a point where I was really curious to see what my hair would be like when I grew out because I had never done it before.
Okay.
And
you just figured, what the heck?
And I figured this is a trendy thing.
You're at a new stage in your life, basically.
Yeah. I'm becoming a real man.
Becoming a real man. Does a man bun classify as becoming a real man?
It probably doesn't to most people, but that's fine.
Maybe. I don't know. A special hello to Kurt as well, too. He says, hello from the hospital. Looking good, guys. Hi, Kurt, and/or hello, Father, at that same time, too. Hope you have a speedy recovery, Dad. Hope you're doing well. But continue to comment below with us, guys, here as we continue to move along. Just heard from Brendan Mentz, as we mentioned, talking about the World Baseball Classic as well, too. If you missed the first part of the show, talked about college basketball and the tournaments and how a team that only has 8 wins, the UW Panthers, not the UW Wisconsin Panthers, if I got my letters correct, has a chance as an 8-win team to win their conference title tonight and then go on to qualify for March Madness, and just the kind of the chaos and silliness that ensues and how I think that's diluting the pool for March Madness as a whole, too. But either way, comment on that. Give us your thoughts. Give us a share as well, too. And, of course, use the hashtag BrewSports as well to interact with us as we're on the air. All right, Mitch, let's go into something you have a lot more knowledge about here. I'm not a big baseball guy. No, you're not either. But the NBA is something you have a lot of knowledge about, hence why you host an NBA show.
I would hope so, seeing as how I literally host a show on this network.
Exactly. So one of the weird things, you hear about games getting canceled for the weather. You hear about games getting canceled for a team getting stuck in traffic or an accident or something crazy like this. But I've never heard of the reason a game got canceled the other night between I believe it was the Trailblazers and the Wolves.
Is that correct? Yes.
What the heck was going on with this?
As you might know, a lot of arenas are multi-purpose facilities.
True, yes.
A lot of sports arenas. So in the Wolves' case, they also host hockey and other ice-related events. In this case, Disney on Ice recently wrapped up a 5-day stint.
Disney on Ice.
In Minneapolis.
Cheers to Disney on Ice.
Cheers to Disney on Ice, except for when the ice underneath, because they maintain the ice underneath the basketball court, even when the wood is layered on top of it. And in this case, the change in temperature between the arena and the ice underneath caused a lot of condensation and slipperiness on the court, which resulted in the NBA deeming the court unfit for play. And now this has happened a couple times before in the past.
This is a thing.
The Bucks had a preseason game canceled because of this before. I believe the 76ers last year had one as well. So it does happen once in a while, and it's just one of those unfortunate situations of having a building that's a multi-use, and then scheduling is what it is.
Do you support the multi-use arenas, or do you think that a sport like basketball and or hockey should have their own separate venues?
Yeah, well, I don't want to come off as anti-hockey on this on this show. Don't get me wrong.
I've already been crucified for saying I don't like hockey, so you can't really do much worse than what I've done.
This is a free fire zone.
100%. Say what you want to say. Say what you need to say.
What I need to say. I support.
You can be just bluntly honest. You don't have to dance around it.
Sports being in the same arena, except for in situations like this.
Okay.
When
there's not many others.
And obviously, it's detrimental if
it is.
You have multiple things going on and they're interfering with one another. Well, I think about the Bradley Center here in Milwaukee that was honestly designed as a hockey arena.
Yeah.
That just kind of ended up being both.
How'd that work for us?
They're building a new stadium. It's fine.
Yeah. Totally fine.
But that's where we had a very similar situation of there's ice under the court for a hockey game that was going on.
Yes.
And they had their annual MAC fundraiser game.
Okay.
During the preseason, and I think they played a couple of minutes and then just said, well, we can't do this because this is an injury risk to our players.
Yeah, and I'd agree with you on that one, too. I mean, you already know that the grounds crew and a lot of people put a lot of time and effort, of course, into maintaining arenas and maintaining the overall vibe and feel of what is going on, but it's a little sad, honestly, that you have to have a problem like this in today's day and age. Where it's like I feel like we have the technology and the manpower to take care of that, basically.
Yeah. And I should say that most of the time it works out just fine. Obviously, this is kind of a rare occurrence.
Yes.
It's only noteworthy, I think, for a lot of people because Disney on Ice is a weird thing to think about coinciding with your sports events.
Disney on Ice is a weird concept in general.
Yes, in general.
A 6-foot Elsa is terrifying.
Oh, on ice skates? Those things are sharp.
Yeah, exactly. She'll cut you. She's the ice queen, and she will cut you. Tanner makes a good point here on Facebook, though. He says multi-use makes sense from a business standpoint. Of course, yes.
Oh, yeah. And if you are talking about publicly funded arenas, then you want to get the most use you can out of them.
You get the circus in there, you get basketball, you get hockey, you get indoor soccer like we have as well, too, the Milwaukee Wave as well. Like, there's numerous things. Arena football as well, too, can sometimes be circled through there as well. So it makes sense. I mean, I grew up in Green Bay with the Resch Center that we have up there, even when I lived in Florida as well, too, where there was a big arena, like a Bradley Center arena as well, too, that was multi-dimensional with sports, whether it was basketball or mostly it was a hockey venue because they had a big hockey team down in that Florida area. But
for sure,
it makes sense, I guess. But kind of an odd thing. So are they making up the game in another day? Or are they going to a different venue?
It'll be rescheduled. I have not seen yet what that date will actually be. But they usually find a gap in the schedule.
Sure.
That makes sense for both of the teams, and then they reschedule. It's like I said, this has happened before. You mentioned for the weather. There was there was a pretty notorious Spurs game that was supposed to be hosted down in Mexico City a couple of years ago,
right? Yeah,
where they ended up having a generator fire in the building that canceled the game because
classic
of
Mexico.
Because of smoke. Yeah, classic Mexico City basketball. So the league is definitely prepared for these kind of situations, and they'll make up the game with no problem. Only a little bit of disappointment for all the Wolves fans that went there to see their underperforming team this year.
All 6 Wolves fans that made the trek down be like, go Wolves!
I have Wolves fans coming down this weekend, and they're going to hate me for this segment.
Well, they'll get over it, right? I'm sure they will.
Hopefully.
I don't know. All right, one of the other things that people are hating right now are the Cleveland Cavaliers for good reason. Maybe they just hate themselves because they've lost 2 games in a row now.
Oh, no. Hit the panic button. Where's my panic button?
I don't have a panic button. We need like a big panic button on the middle of the table.
Exactly, that we can hit the panic button. Yes.
Like the lights dim, like we have a spotlight, be like, tonight, the Cavaliers, will they lose 3 in a row? Oh, no. Maybe. They're 3 games up on the Celtics in the Eastern Conference. Everybody needs to calm down. The Celtics are on a 2-game losing streak as well. Why are we not talking about the Celtics?
Because they don't have LeBron.
True.
Short answer.
Exactly. But still, I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Why do we care when a team loses 2 games in the NBA?
Yeah, I mean,
the Bucks have been losing games. The Wolves have been losing games. The Nuggets, the Jazz.
Baxter, these are all true statements that you're making here.
I need to look and see while you give me your thoughts. I need to see who's on the longest losing streak in the NBA because then I will be like, let's talk about this team.
Well, one of the consequences of having a superstar in the league is that you always have a spotlight on.
Of course,
right? When the Cavaliers had LeBron the first time, they were one of the most talked about teams in the league. When he left, they got bad, and people didn't talk about them so much except for when they were making harebrained draft picks. And now that LeBron has come back, obviously the Cavaliers are a yearly finals contender, but also one of the popular stories in the league.
Do you know who has the worst losing streak right now in the league? I'll give you 2 guesses.
I want to say the New York Knicks, but that's just me wanting to dunk on the Knicks. So
you always want to dunk on the Knicks.
Yeah, that's pretty much my MO.
It's not the Knicks. I'll give you one more guess. I'll tell you to go west. That's all.
Go west. Okay.
I mean, obviously in New York, all you can do is really go west.
Would it be the Phoenix Suns?
No, the Phoenix Suns are on a 3-game win streak.
Oh wow!
Fun fact.
Oh no, that's right. Yeah, yes.
The Lakers, 7-game losing streak.
Lakers.
Where's the panic button for the Lakers, ladies and gentlemen? Why aren't we freaking out about the Lakers? They haven't even won 20 games yet this year.
Yeah, well, if you had that roster, you wouldn't win 20 games either.
You're absolutely right about that. The Sacramento Kings right behind them with a 5-game losing streak.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. The Spurs are on an 8-game winning streak. No one's talking about that.
Yeah, no one ever talks about the Spurs. But they're the most consistent team in the league over the last 20 years.
Atlanta's on a 3-game losing streak. I mean, they're a good team, but I mean...
Yeah, but it's...
Memphis, Oklahoma,
in the league, it's all about the stars and the big cities. I mean, it kind of always has been.
Oh, and of course, and that's how sports is as a whole. I mean, who cares? I mean, honestly, if Charlotte was on an 8-game winning streak, I don't think people would care. Would they?
It's
hard to tell. It's hard to tell with a team like Charlotte. I mean, but that's a strange market. If you pick Charlotte of all places.
Yeah, for sure. If they were in, let's say between the 3rd and 7th spots in the East, then you might be. Oh, Charlotte's starting to make a run.
An 8-game surge.
Exactly.
But I mean, you've got Charlotte sitting right now in the 11th spot. They're a couple games out. They're a couple games out of the playoff race.
Yes.
Realistically, when you really look at it, there's a couple of teams. Charlotte is one of those teams that could somehow still grab that 8th seed in the Eastern Conference because that is still kind of up for grabs.
It's a real mess in the bottom 3 seeds and
it is.
Right under the line in the East, so anybody could kind of make a run there.
True. No, you're absolutely right about that. So, so the Cavs also have lost, though. They've lost a player.
Yeah, this is, being from Milwaukee, I've always had a soft spot in my heart for Andrew Bogut.
Cheers, Andrew Bogut.
Cheers to Andrew Bogut, who just throughout his career has just had the worst luck, culminating in less than a minute into his Cavaliers career.
58 seconds.
58 seconds after being bought out and acquired by the Cavaliers to reinforce their playoff run.
Woo!
Suffered a fractured leg and will miss the rest of the season. That's,
Now that is classic Cleveland right there.
That is classic Cleveland.
That is classic Cleveland.
They got what everybody thought would be a good pickup, reinforced their center rotation.
Why did the Warriors get rid of Bogut? Can you explain that to me? I was a little confused and saddened by them getting rid of a guy like Bogut.
For the Warriors, it was very much a cap crunch type situation where they were gearing up to make a run at Durant and needed the space.
True.
So
you do what you got to do.
Letting Andrew Bogut walk was their way of getting the money to bring Kevin Durant in, and it certainly worked for them. Now of course Kevin Durant has an injury and he's going to be out for a while.
Yes.
We talked on the Friday show last week about knees and
everywhere.
The plague of knees.
I think I got a knee injury just listening to your show. I was like, good Lord.
I was walking to work yesterday. My knee started hurting. I was
like,
terrified.
I'm done. I'm gonna have to be out indefinitely at this point, guys.
Put me on the DL. It's rough. So we feel bad for Andrew Bogut. Obviously a guy who helped bring a little bit of excitement to Milwaukee.
Oh, of course. I was excited when we got him. We drafted him, too.
Yeah, number 1 overall. I mean, he was an all NBA player for a while and then just suffered a series of increasingly tragic injuries.
Unfortunately.
That have really impacted a career that we all thought was going to be great.
Yeah. I'm curious, too, and I think people on Facebook know the Cavs are going to make the playoffs. But realistically, now that you lose Bogut, you're on a 2-game win streak. Do you pay a lot of attention to losing streaks, especially in the NBA when you play so many games? I mean, the NFL is different. You're on a 2-game losing streak. There's your potential shot at the playoffs gone, kind of a thing. So, you got to be careful, obviously, with a 2-game losing streak. But baseball, you can lose 40 games in a row and still make the playoffs, which really ticks me off, honestly. I hate baseball.
We're going to need a new segment of what ticks Baxter off about
baseball. The long seasons is really what it is what boils down to it. And baseball on TV, that also sets me off the edge. Robert wants to know if we are actually drinking beer. Yes, we are, Robert. If you missed the first part of the show.
Welcome to Brew Sports,
I'm
Robert.
drinking a cider. He's drinking an IPA.
Yes, sir.
Locally brewed and bottled here in the great state of Wisconsin. Are you drinking? We always ask people to drink on their lunch hours. I drink on my lunch hour.
I think legally I cannot, but I will let Baxter encourage
Someone's got to get paid to talk
wants.
about sports and drink beer, okay?
Why not us?
Why not us? You're damn right
That's what I always say. All right.
Yeah, exactly. Be like, I feel like you could use that as a comp. Talk to your boss, be like, listen, I know these guys. They get paid to talk about sports and they drink all day.
Sounds pretty good. I want to raise.
I mean, I feel like if you want my performance to go up, I should also be able to drink all day and occasionally talk about sports as well, too.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll have to make that argument next time I see him.
You let me know how that goes through.
Oh, yeah. I might be asking you for a full-time job pretty soon.
There you go. You can submit your application to Brew Sports there. Robert says, no, not really. He's not drinking. He wish he was, of course.
That's all right.
Robert, let us know your favorite beer. I mean, we love hearing what people like to drink. I mean, I feel like a beer and the alcohol choices define people so much nowadays. People say you're defined by the car you drive, the coffee you drink, the clothes you wear, but I feel like the beer you drink as well too, or the wine you drink you drink sometimes defines you as a person as well.
It says a lot about
it does.
When I walk up to a bar and I see someone with a certain beverage, I can safely assume some things about that person.
You get a couple ideas about that person, yeah. I mean, if you see a lady at the bar drinking a nice glass of wine, you're like, oh, she seems like a very classy woman.
Yes,
you know,
she's sophisticated.
Sure, yeah, she's sophisticated. She's got her life in order. You know, like, great. But if you see somebody at the bar that's got, you know, a tall, you know, rum and Coke, you're like, well, I don't know what your life is really at right now. Are you short on money because that's all you can afford is rum and Coke? Or do you
I suspect that they needed that rum and Coke in some capacity.
Exactly. Usually people don't get rum and Cokes unless they absolutely need them, I feel like. All right, Mitch, let's transition into the NFL. This offseason might make a lot of people drink, and I've actually been very excited about the offseason. The NFL free agent market opens on Thursday. We're 2 days away. We know for a fact there's going to be insane deals, bang, 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 all over the place, and then there's going to be silence again, of course, because that's what you do. You go crazy on the first day of free agency, kind of like Christmas morning. You rip open all your presents. You're like, let's see what we can get. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoosh, and it's quiet again, too. So looking at free agency, there's a lot of good people available. Of course, Adrian Peterson is the number one name on everybody's lips, and we'll talk about Adrian in just a moment. But
yes, we will.
Brandon Marshall is a name that a lot of folks have talked about as well, too, released from the Jets after they couldn't come to an agreement. They offered Brandon Marshall a contract. He said, no thanks, I'm going to pass, I'm going to walk. So it's not like they couldn't, it's not like the team was like, we don't want you. But they're like, well, if you don't want to be here, that's fine. We'll cut you. We'll call it a day. You were saying that the Chargers just axed 3 big players as well, too.
Yeah.
Before the lunchtime, Brandon Flowers
Brandon Flowers,
players.
A former highly coveted cornerback in the league, cut.
I would take him on the Packers. Granted, I would take most anybody in the Packers, especially when it comes to defense. Offensively, we need a running back.
Do you have 2 legs, and can you see the opposing players?
Yes. Can you actually run a zone defense?
You can play in our defensive backfield.
We can't cover, but maybe you. You could be the missing link to the Dom Capers debacle. But,
yes.
So obviously a lot of people are going to be caring about where Marshall goes, but the 3 names that I'm sure at the quarterback position people care about, Tony Romo, Colin Kaepernick, Jay Cutler, of course.
Yes.
I'm hearing rumors that Romo is going to go to Chicago, Colin Kaepernick is going to go to Cleveland, and Cutler is going to go to San Francisco.
Oh, wow. That would be a very interesting development.
Do any of those players actually make said teams better? I don't know.
I mean, honestly,
I don't know if they do.
In San Francisco at this point, they literally don't have any quarterbacks, so
they really don't. Like, they literally are just
yeah.
You and I think have a tryout next week with the 49ers.
For at this point. I've been working out this whole last week, just trying to get back into game shape. But
true.
Obviously Tony Romo is a guy who is 36 years old, has a pretty bad injury history.
Yes.
But is
He's
also
very brittle.
Yeah,
I don't like Tony Romo because of his injuries. If he was healthy, I'd have a whole other conversation. But because he's been so riddled with injuries, I just don't think he's worth it. I don't think any team should try to pay him starter money.
It's a very big risk unless you feel that you have a great offensive line and a great scheme that is going to protect him as much as possible.
Yes, I agree with you on that one.
And so for a team like the Bears, they've definitely got
Packer
some interesting
fans would take
parts.
Tony Romo on the Bears. They'd be like, absolutely. We went from Jay Cutler to Tony Romo. I feel like this is Christmas almost, basically. So many options. Robert on Facebook says the Steelers would be a good potential landing spot. I don't know if that was for Adrian Peterson or Brandon Marshall. He also says that Bud Ice or Miller Lite are his drinks of choice as well, too.
Some solid options, some real gritty day in and day out. Always going to be reliable for you.
You're drinking Bud Ice or you're drinking Miller Lite. Nobody's going to fault you for drinking a Miller Lite.
You are just, it's getting the job done for you.
You're absolutely right about that. He also says that you really shouldn't worry too much about a 2-game losing streak or losing, Bogut, LeBron. They'll be just fine, honestly, with Kyrie and everything else too.
The Cavaliers we're always going to be a 1 seed this year.
Yeah, you don't need to worry too much about that. And I think Robert obviously echoing that as well too. So
definitely.
We appreciate your comments about that, Robert, in that regard. So when you look at this NFL free agent market right now, Mitch, are there players that you're curious about, or players you're hopeful will get another chance, or just what do you make of this year's free agent class?
It's a really interesting balance of older players that still have something left. I mean, we mentioned Adrian Peterson. Jamal Charles is a really interesting name for me.
Yeah.
As a guy who was cut by the Chiefs. Obviously he's had a couple of injuries. He tore an ACL multiple times now and had a setback last year. But still feels like a guy who could help a team maybe as a secondary back,
right?
As someone to catch passes out of the backfield.
I would agree with you on that one too. I mean, I want to go with this too because Robert's been hitting us up here. He said that Brandon Marshall he thinks would make the Seahawks or even the Saints a better team as a possibility.
Yeah.
He also said Marshall to the Steelers as well too. I'm assuming he must be a Steelers fan, which I mean I would take Brandon Marshall on the Packers as well too. As a Packers fan.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know how he'd fit into the offense. I don't necessarily know if we have room for him, honestly.
Yeah, that's tough when you have so many receivers.
Seattle, though, I feel like needs the help. I feel like New Orleans needs the help. I mean, how does Drew Brees continue to lead the NFL in passing yards and the Saints still not be a good team? Like they need. Now they're talking about Brandon Cooks maybe even getting traded as well too.
Yeah. I mean, that might be for some reinforcements for the defense that was holding them back.
That is true.
Last year, though. So.
And that's true. I mean, when the Saints made that Super Bowl run and won the Super Bowl, they had a really great defense, of course, and now. Obviously, Drew Brees is trying to do everything he can. That's a gentleman that you just kind of feel bad for. You're like, guys, we got to help Drew out. You know, we got to give him something. We got to give him somebody to throw to. We took away Jimmy Graham, you know. So
for sure,
I totally support a Brandon Marshall move to Seattle and move to New Orleans to try to help. But
yeah,
Marshall,
he would definitely.
Marshall's basically said this though that he wants to try to compete for a championship. Seattle's a good spot. New Orleans isn't.
No, not as currently constructed.
Pittsburgh, and imagine Brandon Marshall, Antonio Brown, like boom, boom, 1-2.
That would be a great combination.
It is.
And then with them and Le'Veon Bell, you might have something going.
You might actually have
They're
a Steelers
already a
team.
potent offense. So.
Exactly. That's the Steelers team that could maybe upset a team like the Patriots.
Yeah,
you know?
very possibly.
Looking at some of these other guys as well, too, it's funny because ESPN and Fox Sports and everybody else has all their opinions, and we, of course, have our own separate opinions as well, too. But when we actually all agree on something, you and I talked about this before the show today, saying that we would really, honestly, we could fathom an Adrian Peterson, Brandon Marshall addition to New England. We don't like it, but we could see it happening.
But the Patriots have that kind of combination of sixth sense and very, very coy maneuvering. To bring in guys who might be a little bit older but are chasing a ring.
And that's the thing. If you're Adrian Peterson and you're Brandon Marshall, you're saying, look, guys, I haven't won a ring yet. I want to be a Hall of Famer. I want to cement my legacy. All I need to do is win the Super Bowl, and I'm good, basically. You know, I don't have to win 5 like you did, Tom. Like I just need to win 1.
I just want to come on. Yeah, for sure.
But we had David Kenyon on yesterday from Bleacher Report on the Morning Brew, and he said that the Patriots don't need Adrian Peterson. He said, if you re-sign LeGarrette Blount and James White continues to produce the way he did, why would you bother with a guy like Adrian Peterson?
That's totally
fair. Of course,
fair.
You still, if you can get him, of course.
Yeah,
Maybe
if you can get him at a reasonable price.
Yes, and if you can work out a
definitely.
deal somehow to maximize, your efforts as a team, basically, well, absolutely, go for it. It's a guy you don't say no to, really.
Yeah,
but Robert says he's got to run. Thanks for watching, Robert.
Yeah,
we appreciate
thanks
you.
very much.
Back at you
Hopefully
later.
We'll have you back
stuff.
soon.
Appreciate it. It's always good. I want to focus in here on Robert for just a quick second here. It's always good to have loyal viewers and listeners as well too.
Definitely.
So we really appreciate you, Robert, and other people that as well that continue to comment. David earlier as well too. I know Jeff has been a commenter as well too. We appreciate people like you as well too. That's what helps make Brew Sports continue to run as well too. So share the show as you're watching it. Let your friends be able to know what's going on. Tell people about Brew Sports. And, of course, continue to comment as well, too. So we're very grateful for all of you that continue to do that. So going back to this Patriots thing, I mean, I've also – I don't know. Do the Patriots need a guy? I don't know if the Patriots need Adrian Peterson. They don't.
They definitely do not.
If you can win a Super Bowl without any extra additions, you're fine. The Patriots need defensive help because they're probably going to let Dante Hightower and a lot of these other strong guys walk.
Yeah.
You're not going to win a Super Bowl again with a weak defense.
Oh, no, for sure. I mean, if there's one thing that we've seen from teams that might be very local to us, and also teams like the Saints, where you could have a great high-powered offense, but when it comes to it in the playoffs, if you're giving up as many points as you're scoring, then you're going to have a very hard time.
Yes, I would agree with you on that one, too. And looking here at some of the latest news, as we mentioned, the Chargers have released Brandon Flowers. The Bucs are expected to re-sign Jacquizz Rodgers as well, too. No word on Doug Martin yet. I don't know if you've heard anything on them bringing back Doug Martin or not yet.
No, I have not at this point. I imagine they're working on something.
I hope so. That would be a big loss,
like
honestly. Chargers also releasing first-round draft choice DJ Fluker. One more good offensive lineman added to the free agent crop. I completely agree with that one. That one's per Adam Schefter. You mentioned Mike Glennon to me off the air.
I did, in fact.
Where? Where do you think he's going to go?
That's a good series of questions, Baxter.
He's not a bad quarterback. I don't think. He got screwed because they drafted Jameis Winston.
He definitely ended up in a situation where he was a backup who arguably could, given some of the situations in this league, could be a starter.
Yes.
I
don't think he's a great quarterback, but I think Mike Glennon has a lot to offer.
I think he can definitely. I don't think he's the quarterback you want to rely on, but he definitely, given a good system, a good support system around him, could add some value.
What about Mike Glennon to like Denver? Would Glennon be better than Trevor Siemian or Mark Sanchez? Well, Mark Sanchez is a Cowboy now,
I would need to see a little bit more. It would be interesting. I think anyone looking at Mike Glennon right now is going to be taking a little bit of a gamble based on he has a decent body of work, but not too deep. And for obviously it's not his fault that Jameis Winston was a number 1 overall pick and ended up starting.
Tampa could have done other things, I feel like, though. If you thought you were confident in Mike Glennon, that was a big telltale sign right there, too. If you're Tampa saying, look, we don't trust you yet. Let's go get this number 1 overall pick. Like, if you already have a Ferrari and you have a chance to, I'm not calling Mike Glennon a Ferrari, but like if you've got a nice Corvette, and then all of a sudden you've got a Ferrari that comes available for a great price, and people are like, I'm going to just give you a Ferrari. You probably still take the Ferrari. Be like,
if anyone wants to give me a Ferrari, let me know.
Yeah, it's like I can get a Ferrari and a nice Corvette at the same time. Like most people,
that sounds all right.
Most people can be like, yeah, absolutely, I'll take that for sure. I still don't think Mike Glennon's a Corvette. I don't know how to classify him.
He might be.
He's not a Ford Taurus.
No. I'd say he might. Yeah, well.
Maybe.
We would have to get way farther into our
equivalence
of NFL quarterbacks to cars to really complete
Ford
this analogy.
Escape crossover. I don't know. with
he's like a Jeep Wrangler.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what kind of a car. If you know what kind of a car Mike Glennon
Wranglers,
would be,
I don't know if
let
he's
us
a Wrangler.
know. I don't know how to classify Mike Glennon as a car, but that's basically that situation though, where you've got something good already going for you, and then you basically say, well, I can get something even better.
That's true.
At the same position though. So why not, I guess, go for it?
That's totally true. And, regardless of Mike Glennon's quality as a quarterback, people are talking about him getting a deal somewhere in the $15 million a year range.
Yes. $15 million?
Which is a lot of money.
Well,
it's a lot of monny.
For Mike Glennon, that seems like a lot of money. And what Armin brings up, what I was going to get to eventually, is that he said Glennon to the Bears.
That was something that I had seen people talking about earlier this morning.
And Armin wants to know, why have I heard so much about him all week, all of a sudden give his agent a raise? Yeah, the PR, the marketing campaign for Mike Glennon has been insane.
Oh, for sure.
And then Armin also says, if anybody wonders how much GMs are desperate for quarterbacks, let us never forget the day Baxter gave him better than a Ford Taurus. It's true. I mean, I never classified the year, Armin. I don't know. I don't know
very
what
nice
year.
The new Tauruses look very nice.
They do.
Let's be fair.
Heated seats?
Oh, man.
Come on. Who doesn't want heated seats?
Optional leather. It's fantastic. But this, Mike Glennon getting $15 million,
is he
allegedly being in that range is
15. Not 15 a year. No.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. $15 million
No. He's not worth that.
But that
I
speaks
misunderstood.
to...
I thought maybe it was going to be like a 3-year, $15 million deal.
Oh, no.
No, he's not worth $15 million a year.
But that speaks to a lot of uncertainty in this quarterback market. I mean,
it does.
Like
People
you
are
said,
desperate.
you have Tony Romo out there who has been a very good quarterback in the past, but is older and injured. Often injured, I should say. He's probably currently pretty healthy.
Maybe.
He hasn't played in a while. He's probably pretty healthy.
He hasn't touched the football. He hasn't broken anything yet.
You have guys like Jay Cutler who have shown flashes of brilliance but also been maddening as starters. You have guys like Colin Kaepernick who had a year and a half that were really good and even played decently last year in San Francisco given how bad that team was.
Yes.
But definitely is not a guy that a lot of people are expressing faith in.
And
so that results in a market where guys like Mike Glennon, who might, will probably be a serviceable quarterback, is going to command some pretty big money.
That's the thing. I mean, people are desperate right now for a good quarterback. People want to win. You're not going to win a Super Bowl if you don't have a good quarterback.
That's very true.
I need to put up a picture right now on the screen.
This
because
is investigative journalism.
Armin has done a wonderful job of trying to give us a possibility of what he thinks Mike Glennon is. I'm gonna switch the camera angle here really fast. So.
Oh man, look at that!
Look at this. That's what Armin classifies as
nice
Mike Glennon. He says Glennon is a 2002 Sebring convertible sport.
All right,
look at that thing.
That is, listen, it's better than what I got now. So
I was gonna say he could be a Ford Taurus as well too, but that's a lot to love right there. I feel like 2002. But I mean, if you look at that car, you can take 4 people, and that's a convertible.
Yeah.
It maybe is one of those things you lie about on a first date. It's like, I've got a convertible, and the girl's like, oh, okay.
Oh, so you have like a Mustang? Oh, that's really cool.
Like, whoa, convertible. I mean. That's cool.
Really nice.
I mean, I'll go on a second.
You should take me out in your convertible.
I'll take you. I'll go on a second date.
You have to go rent an actual convertible.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
that she doesn't see your Ford Taurus.
Armin says he loves Ford Tauruses. By the way,
well,
says, "Hey, I love Tauruses." No, I have no problem with Tauruses. I don't.
Good cars.
My family had Tauruses for a lot of times growing up as well too. A Taurus is a very integral part of who Baxter Colburn is.
It really shaped you.
It really did.
Can see that every day.
I am a better man because I know that Ford Tauruses are garbage, and I will never ever do anything to buy Ford Taurus again. Basically, it happens.
Yeah.
So Mike Glennon is a 2002 Sebring convertible sport.
Now that's settled.
Now that we've got that off our chest.
Send this to the GMs. We cracked it.
Exactly. Be like, all right, guys, according to... You've heard this here first on Bruce Sports. 2002 Sebring convertible sport. Mike Glennon.
Great.
Not worth $15 million.
Send it to the graphics department.
Yes. Yep, exactly. You should Kelly Blue Book how much 2002 Sebring is worth.
Oh, boy. Oh, I don't...
Oh my gosh.
I did that for my own car recently because I'm looking around and it's not very uplifting to see how much your car is actually worth.
That's kind of a depressing thing, honestly. Looking around at some of the other news, you just like to think and hope that there's going to be guys that come out of the free agent market that are going to continue to do really well, and that's really what it boils down to. Honestly, is you think about guys that are going to help make your team special and are going to help win a Super Bowl. I mean, obviously Cleveland's not going to rebuild completely. Tennessee was close last year. They're going to continue to try to continue to build going forward. Whatever they are now. LA, the Chargers are going to continue to push forward. Baltimore has a couple of spots that they need to add as well too. Buffalo with Tyrod Taylor, what are they going to do with him? There. The Jets, they struggled immensely. I mean, every NFL team, maybe aside from, I don't really know. It really, like, you look at every team has some sort of a hole. Especially with the players they're getting rid of as well, too. Now Minnesota needs to figure out, do we go out and sign another running back, or do we draft and hope for the best? Do we ride Jerick McKinnon? What do we do for Minnesota?
I wouldn't pick the last option. Let's just say.
Yeah.
He's all right, but listen.
I'm not saying it's a good idea, but I'm not saying it's the right idea at the same time as well, too.
Yeah.
I get that. Armin says, I used to have that car. It's just enough to make people think you are cool, but really you are just like the rest, Glennon. Yes. Shout out to Armin. Shout out to Armin with his 2002 Sebring. That's the way to go, basically.
Definitely.
Any other thoughts with this NFL free agency thing, Mitch? Any other players we need to keep an eye on? Anybody you're hoping maybe that goes to the Packers, or anybody you're hoping?
I don't know about the Packers specifically, but you did bring up Donta Hightower earlier, and I am really interested in some former Patriots linebackers in Donta Hightower and Chandler Jones, who got traded to Arizona. Yeah, definitely. And it's always interesting with the Patriots to see who they let get to free agency and who they let go elsewhere. And there is some talk that the Patriots have some sort of a negotiation going on with Donta Hightower to bring him back.
Because they didn't want to franchise tag him. I think it was going to be $7.6 million or something like that to franchise tag him. Yeah. And so they're probably still trying to bring him back at a reasonable price. Makes sense.
But I would be interested to see, given that they kind of have not deemed those two players as franchise cornerstones, to see where they end up and how they perform there.
Yeah, and I would agree with you on that one as well, too. So we'll have to keep an eye.
Definitely.
I know I'm really excited for Thursday And I think a lot of folks as a whole are excited for the NFL free agent market to bust wide open as well.
And also briefly, we are 5 minutes away from your favorite period of the entire year. The legal tampering period starts at noon today.
That's the weirdest thing. In what profession do you get excited about legal tampering? Tampering is always associated with
crime.
Bad, he was caught for tampering. What?
Yeah.
No, it's legal. You can tamper. It's totally fine.
It's fine. You have 2 days before free agency. You need something to do.
What do you classify as
just go tamper with these players?
What do you classify as tampering? Doing things illegally. Doing things legally is weird, but can't think.
Are
of
you
the
talking
word.
about in the context of this or just in general?
Well, in general, if you get convicted for tampering, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Are you messing something up?
If
putting your hands where they're not supposed to be.
If it's related to some sort of crime, you are maybe obscuring some evidence or changing things to make the trail harder to find, something like that.
I could see that, I guess. One person that is tampering
yes, go on.
is Terrell Owens. He's tampering with a shot at becoming a Hall of Famer.
He has some words for the Hall of Fame committee.
Did you hear what he did? What he bought?
Yeah, he purchased, seeing as how nobody wanted to put him into the Hall of Fame this year, he purchased himself a Hall of Fame jacket.
Okay, I don't see what's wrong with that. It's a Hall of Fame jacket. Was that it?
His career statistics on the back.
Oh, well, that's a little different.
Almost as if he wanted to make a point.
I should be in the Hall of Fame because I have better numbers than Marvin Harrison, who's also in the Hall of Fame. But that's none of my business.
Yes.
Terrell
Owens, you know as well as I, his career was defined by him being outspoken and by some of his antics on and off the field.
No, that was Randy Moss. Whatever. It all blurs together. And Ocho Cinco and Randy Moss all blur together after a while. But
sure.
They do. Those three were the prime of the NFL at that when they were playing, of course. But how? Question number one: is Terrell Owens a Hall of Famer?
Yes,
he
has to be. He's top 3 in touchdowns, receiving yards, top 10 in receptions in the league.
Makes sense.
Behind Hall of Famers all around.
And even people that are in the Hall of Fame are saying Terrell should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So why is he not?
It's not. So this isn't quite the same thing, but I'm starting to see a little bit of an echo in the NFL Hall of Fame of the conundrum that a lot of baseball Hall of Fame voters have about their judgment of a player's worthiness outside of his statistics. Obviously, in baseball, a lot of people talk about the steroid era. They'll talk. Barry Bonds is the flashpoint for this.
Yes, rightfully so.
Obviously he has some of the greatest statistics of all time, but people are going to stand by that he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame because of his steroid use.
I can understand that.
And regardless of how you come down on that,
and then Pete Rose is not in the Hall of Fame.
And Pete Rose with his gambling issues is kind of the same thing. And it almost makes you wonder if some of the voters for the Football Hall of Fame are looking at Terrell Owens outside of his statistics and saying, well, this dude was...
The locker room cancer, divided people.
He had locker room issues. He was very outspoken. He did a lot of things that we don't really like and we don't feel should be rewarded with a Hall of Fame.
How many other players in the NFL that are in the Hall of Fame...
Oh, sure. No, I'm not... I'm not saying that...
stuff.
I'm not saying that these are views that I personally consider valid, but it's definitely entering the equation for some voters.
Yes. No, you're right. And I think, though, that they're losing perspective.
Yeah.
You are told to vote on a player based off of their career statistics. That's what defines a Hall of Famer. It doesn't matter the amount of charity work they did. It doesn't matter whether or not everybody liked them or not. You vote on how they did on the field, playing the game, or whatever sport it is. Football, basketball, baseball, hockey, anything. If you score 1,000 goals and you had 600 assists, you're going to be a Hall of Famer. You're going to be. If you win a Stanley Cup or if you win 2 World Series and you led your team in batting and you had 500 stolen bases, you're going to be a Hall of Famer. And Terrell Owens, as you said, top of almost every list or top 5 on almost every list. Statistically, you need to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he's one of the best wide receivers ever to play the game.
Just
kind of full stop.
Exactly. That's the thing. You can't. That's you can't say Terrell Owens is the best receiver, one of the best to ever play the game. Oh, and by the way, I don't like his personality. That you can't say that. You can't tell somebody that he is one of the best to ever play the game, and then also tag on at the end, but his personality's not. Well, so what? Everybody's got weird sides to them. Everybody's got a strange personality. Like, it happens. Everybody is different off the field.
Yeah.
His personality, he wasn't getting into fights. He wasn't cheating. He wasn't punching refs. He, he was a character. He got, flagged occasionally for over excessive celebration. If that's the worst thing he did on the field, then shut your mouth. As a voter.
That's
really,
valid.
That's really what it comes down to.
That is valid.
And I find that ridiculous that people put so much stock in what people did off the field. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think Ray Lewis is a Hall of Famer. Or maybe soon. I could be totally wrong. I don't want to make this argument without being completely wrong. I don't think he's in the Hall of Fame yet.
I don't think he's in the Hall of Fame yet, correct.
But a guy like Ray Lewis, if he's not in the Hall of Fame yet, will likely be a Hall of Famer. Ray Lewis was attached to murder.
Yeah.
And he's still going to probably be in the Hall of Fame.
I mean, if you want to talk about that, like Marvin Harrison.
But that was off the field, though.
Also,
off the field.
Yeah.
And then, but I don't think people would be making a big issue about this with Ray Lewis. I mean, they'd be like, well, Ray Lewis he won a Super Bowl. He was this pantheon of an exciting defensive player. Why would we ever think of course he belongs in the Hall of Fame? Well, if we're judging people based off their off-the-field characters, well, too, Ray Lewis, Marvin Harrison, how many other people out there in the NFL or in any sport should be, negated that opportunity then?
Yeah, I agree. And it's definitely a case of people it depends on a lot of people's perspective of what the Hall of Fame should be.
Yes.
I think a lot of voters for multiple sport Hall of Fames, not just football, are starting to look at it as the best representatives of the sport. And for that, a lot of them are then starting to look at character.
Correct.
Not really morality issues, but things beyond the actual play of the game.
You're
and,
right.
generally don't. I would say I generally don't agree with that. I would fall more along your lines of thinking of these are the great players of the game.
Yeah.
These are the guys who did the most on the field.
I respect that, of course.
But, obviously there are people who have a little bit more sway in these conversations than you or I.
Of course.
Who are trying to almost mold the Hall of Fame into what they think should be kind of the pinnacle of the sport.
I agree. No, I feel like I completely agree with you on that one too, and I feel like sometimes people let their egos get in the way and sometimes negate the fact of how good certain players are. I mean, how many guys that are on the voting committee, if we started going through the voting committee one by one and saying, well, what have you done off the field? What have you done outside of your profession? You got whatever. You got a speeding ticket last month. Oh boy, like you're obviously